So this is Be Mine. This is a cherry chocolate version of our quadruple, our Quadraphonic Quadrupel. And this is a seasonal beer for us. So it's a specialty beer we do once a year, small quantities. It's a big, rich beer. This is a beer that kind of came about as I don't want to say a mistake, but it definitely wasn't a planned thing that we were looking to make a cherry chocolate version of this beer. We were kind of playing around with some interesting ideas of treatments, so to speak, and just those dense, dark fruits that are already in that quad tended to lead themselves to chocolate, tended to lead themselves to that dark, rich cherry. So we played around with it and did a treatment, and lo and behold, it turned out really, really good.
Chocolate-covered cherries are a cordial, sometimes given as a Valentine's present, and we think this is a beer that you would want to enjoy with someone special. I think one of the things that makes the Quadraphonic, which is the base beer, very interesting is the yeast strain that we use, which is a classic Trappist yeast strain that produces out of that combination of malts that we're using as well as the candy syrup, very rich, deep fruit flavors that I think are just delicious. I think it makes it, there's a light spiciness there, but there's also dark fig and cherry flavors already in this beer. We accentuate them a little bit by adding some natural cherry and chocolate, as well as a touch of vanilla to the beer.
Balance is one of the big things here, is that you want to make sure that the cherries and the chocolate and the little bit of vanilla that we use in this beer don't dominate and take over all the already complex flavors in that quad. So one of the biggest mistakes you can make is making a beer that is one-dimensional and tastes like one thing instead of being nuanced and layered. And we put a lot of time and energy into making the quad a complex and interesting beer, so we want to make sure that the beer speaks through those cherries and that chocolate as well.
And I do believe the balance is there in this beer with the cherries and the chocolate, to where they're not over the top, but blend nicely with the natural flavors already present in the Quadraphonic Quad. And give Kevin credit, he came up with the idea of recognizing the fact that cherries and chocolate potentially combined with this beer could make for a very interesting combination.
So to do this beer, we actually add tart cherries, not sweet cherries. I think that's very important for a beer that already has some residual sweetness to it to balance that out a bit. We add the cherries and we add the little bit of vanilla that we use. We add that into the fermenter itself. So it goes in during fermentation, so we ferment out the actual residual sugars left over inside those ingredients, which once again dry the beer out as much as we possibly can. We're not trying to make a sweet bomb. We're trying to make a well-balanced beer. So this beer will be available in draft throughout the state of Florida for limited accounts. It's a small production beer, but also we're really happy to say that Total Wine is working with us this year to do an exclusive bottle release with them. So they will be putting some bottles on their shelves exclusively of Be Mine. We'll also have some for sale inside the tasting room as well. So Be Mine is a dense, dark, and hedonistic kind of beer. The kind of beer you would imagine sipping, savoring, while wearing maybe a velveteen robe next to a fire.
That's great.